Remember, boys, strong zeros are very strong and not very zero. Alrighty, let's get into the game. This game was in the works for quite a while, and what did they come up with in those long years of hard work? They managed to make EDF 5, but with some new, very, very annoying enemy types, and some minor improvements to the environment, as well as some better weaponry. The air raider gets drones, so they really didn't change anything. This might seem like an indictment of the game, and in a way, I suppose it is. However, the last game was the digital version of hard drugs, so there really wasn't a need to make all that many improvements to it. Once the series has its hooks in you, it is rather difficult to leave. And if you need help, there's programs out there such as EDF Anonymous. I would suggest that you turn to them if you are having a problem quitting this game. So, let's talk shit about it. In their infinite wisdom, they decided to use the Epic Game Services. This, in conjunction with Japanese sensibilities when it comes to programming, means that you may or may not crash, get disconnected. It really is a crapshoot. It works for the most part, but on occasions you will need to break out the digital Ouija board and get to work seducing them digital devils. But seriously, this is the type of game that you need to have friends playing with. Otherwise, who else is gonna witness all the random bullshit that happens in this game? Yeah, nobody. You can play this game single player, however you are missing out on a comedy gold mine, so I would suggest you not do that. Your friends will also help you retain your sanity, or what little you have left. Did you truly randomly die, or did a squid sneak up behind you and snipe you? Friends are also useful to make sure when you do kill yourself by accident, and you will, there is a record of your stupidity. On the bright side, it will happen to them too, so you can lord it over them and bust their balls. This is a very buggy game. There will be instances that you will fall through the ground because one of the enemies kicked your ass so hard that physics stopped working for a few seconds. Once you find yourself under the map, one of two things are going to happen. If you are playing on a map without water, you will continue falling until you wrap back around the earth and fall through the sky. Now, if you're playing on a map with water, you're going to fall through the ground and then get stuck in the water. Once you are in this position, there is little hope of escape. So, you can either restart the mission or hope that the Chinese bots that are taking up 2 of your team slots actually do something. They won't. This can also occur on cave missions. Now, since you can't exactly fall through the sky, what the hell happens to you? Well, still trying to figure that out, but from what I can deduce, you fall through the sky, which doesn't really exist, through a series of tunnel systems, and then you either get ejected out into one of the caves that you can actually meet back up with your people, or you will be trapped forever in a little cave that's blocked off. I did have video evidence of all this occurring at one point in time. However, my operating system decided that it was going to become corrupted for no other reason than I tried to swap it into a different computer. So you're just gonna have to believe me. Go experience it for yourself. Now that you know that this game is incredibly buggy, how does it play? I don't think you're gonna believe it, but it plays like EDF, and they actually made some improvements to it. I know, who'd have thunk? To the uninitiated, this is a basic game where you run around collecting boxes and shooting numerous types of enemies. The boxes come in 2 varieties, the weapon box and the armor box. The weapon box gives you a new weapon or upgrade, or more likely, nothing. This weapon box is RNG. You have no idea what you are going to get. There are loot tables out there. You can go look at them on your own. They kind of tell you what you may or may not get depending on the difficulty of the mission and what mission it is. For instance, if you played this game on easy, you might have a problem. But your selection of weapons are going to peak out at about level 20. Which means that if you want anything better, you're going to have to crank up that difficulty. The other box type is armor. This will permanently adjust your health by 1. And if that sounds like it's going to take a very long time for you to be useful, you are correct. This means that you have the option of using game-enhancing programs. I'm sure you know where to look. But if you don't want to do that, you can also just wait for the Chinese bots to show up. They will most definitely have game-enhancing programs. You get to select between 4 classes: the Ranger, Wing Diver, Air Raider, and that piece of shit Fencer that can destroy the world all by himself. The weapon and armor pickups have a slight bias towards whichever class you are playing in that mission. I say slight because oftentimes you're just going to get weapons for classes that you never use. They added a few new vehicles that are about the same as all the others. The useless ones are still useless, and the powerful ones still kick ass. The Niggling is a vexing vehicle, and is commonly referred to by me and my friend as the Niggling. If that sounds like a racial slur, might I suggest a dictionary? This thing could be useful, but if an enemy so much as looks at it the wrong way, it's game over, man. If you want an anti-air vehicle, you might be better off with a Titan or a Barga. It's sad when your squishy little character has much more survivability than a tank or a self-propelled missile launcher in this particular case. At the beginning of the game, you get to fight the same enemies from the previous entry. And then as you travel through time, these enemy types become more and more annoying. There are androids that run with erratic cadences, with hands that shoot you. Luckily, it is possible to shoot them down before they hit you, and then they strap bombs onto their hands later on. Very annoying. The larger variety have larger bombs, and if you think you are far enough away, you are not. The blast radius on these things is probably half a mile, or 1.6 kilometers if you're from the non-freedom land. And then they finally add some incredibly annoying enemy types. These are the squid. They have shields that will block everything and anything you shoot their way until it overheats. And only then can you turn them into sashimi. When going up against these particular squids, you should be aware that they can reach over buildings and blast you. What was once a safe haven is now meaningless. Thanks, developers. They also track your every movement with their laser beams. The precision involved here is astounding. You can run all you want, but they're still going to get you. All of that is fine. The real menace of the game are these mini krakens. What do? They move even more erratically than the androids do. When you shoot at them, they slowly float down, which is what the normal ones also do. You will mistake a lot of dead ones for being alive, and a lot of alive ones for being dead. These little ass nuggets also love to hover over you, and when you believe yourself to be safe, bam, you get stabbed by 1 to a million tentacles. If you are playing on hard, these will most likely insta-kill you. The other 500,000 are meaningless, but it's still salt in the wound. There are other drones, but the only ones that I feel like mentioning are the flame drones. Or, more specifically, the red upgraded version. These things have flamethrowers, and the normal ones are easy enough to deal with, but these red ones, oh buddy, those flamethrowers are practically snipers. If you think you are high enough to be safe from them, you are wrong. And the second the building you are hiding behind, or on top of, comes down, you will be dead. So, now that you know what you are up against, what else does this game have to offer you? The answer to that is rather simple. Explosions and hours of frustration, fun. Unless you are Chinese. In that case, I'm sure you're already cheating. On the bright side, the Chinese sometimes have item vacs on, which will help you. Sometimes they simply sit in the corner and do nothing because they're actually Chinese bots. Perhaps you should just play with people you know, unless you want to deal with the Chinese, and believe me, they are everywhere. But back to the explosions. The EDF decided that they were going to finally put some guns on the Bargas. The game won't let you forget how to use the Barga the first time you get in it. However, when they add guns to the back, the game never really tells you. Or it could just be that I got through that mission a little too quickly. How the hell do you use this? You hold the middle mouse button, do a quick taunt, and then press F to blast all the enemies. You know, they spent half the development cycle ripping themselves off. They could have spent 5 seconds to actually make the controls logical, but no. So outside the new enemy types and some basic gameplay enhancers, you basically get EDF 5. So if you want EDF 5 but more, this is going to be your jam. If you are new to the series, I can elaborate a little. The game is rather basic, but that's not why you play this game. You play it to go full Federation on some bugs, monsters, and kaiju. Now onto some more problems. Some of the missions in this game involve you walking around very slowly, listening to 10 out of 10 dialogue, and that is it. In EDF 5, these missions were reserved for early game. In 6, these missions happen later in the game. I know they wanted to put more missions in it, but they could actually, put more missions in it. This just feels like they were very desperate to make that number as close to 150 as they possibly could. In terms of the story, these missions make sense, I guess, but they don't feel great to play because, well, you don't do anything. And I want to say that they could have done this in a more elegant way, but if they did that, this would not be EDF. In fact, if they did something good, it might be considered a plot hole by most players. It might seem like I'm being rather negative towards this game, but that's part of the fun. To the uninitiated, do I recommend this game? Yes, you will probably have fun. And that probably turns into a definitely if you have any friends. There are quite a few missions later on that will be very reminiscent of Pacific Rim and other monster movies, with a heavy Japanese flair to them. If you like dumb, and I mean dumb fun, you will enjoy this. If you want something more complex, might I suggest you go find another hobby. That is all I got today, Ningen. My next video will take some time. This is in part that I lost several hours of footage because Windows. The other reason is I'm trying to improve and do a better job. So any scathing comments you might have, please do put them in the chat. Have a better one.